Good morning. Happy Sunday. About a couple hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes, something like that, before I gotta go during the morning. You may be able to do something a little later on, but anywho, that's not where that's supposed to be. We can do a little bit of a cleanup. Always have chaos that happens here. My nemesis. I look at people's work areas. They post them online or whatever, and I'm like, how do you get anything done? How do you get anything done? I left the horses out here. Okay, well, I guess they're fine. They're not really hurting anything being over there. Oh, here's the riders. Well, what's in here? Let's go ahead and put these horses away. Good morning, folks. We'll get started on our Byzantine project. Here, well, this is part of the Byzantine project. It's called putting away all these damn Byzantine horses I left everywhere. Let's get rid of this. As soon as one of those hits that, it's going to be loud. Did a lot of drilling yesterday. That was actually really successful. Although probably as exciting as watching paint dry. It is time consuming. But we did find some drills that were able to work. I only broke one. So that's pretty good. They're going to break. They just are. The question is, do you have any left? All right. I don't know what a paintbrush is doing the hell up here. Okay. So yesterday, working on our Saloy, I did do a little bit off camera, very little. To the point where we got to do his little, he's got like a bracelet here, and I think it's when you're holding the arrow so that when it comes back and it rubs your hand, it doesn't rub you raw. So we're probably going to do that leather-like, that's what it looks like. It's leathery. And then we have a scabbard to do for a small sword, and his quiver, and the strappings that he's done. And I'm not sure how happy I am with him because his face is just horrid. There's only so much I can do. And I was fresh out of Miracles. Let's move him over here. He has a horrid face. Let's do a little zoom in. You see what I'm talking about. Now don't worry about the color because it doesn't look as washed out as it does here. Here it's almost like, I guess maybe it's not that bad. It's just awkward looking. It's an awkward looking face. You know, the area around his mouth, there's this one part on where his beard, I guess it would be, see, to be equivalent, it would be this part of his beard almost like disappears into his face. And honestly, I've tinkered with it, and it's about as good as I can do. Just an awkward figure. I get why some people don't like Old Glory. They have a couple different figure styles, and let me see if I can show you one of them. See, this Armenian spirit is. No, it's kind of bug-eyed too. Yeah, this Saloy has such a wide head. You know, I think they crossed him with a cow or something. Anyhow, I don't really like it when they mold the the actual eyes on the figure, but as big as they are on the Saloy, I have to paint them. I have to do it. So it's really not the eyes. It's just kind of the face. Just kind of looks like it got hit with a frying pan and kind of flattened it out. Good morning, Nordic. He looks like a gnome with that hat. Ever see the old cartoon David the Gnome? Reminds me of that for some reason. Yeah, there's pretty much a dunce cap. Remember back in school, they would talk about putting a dunce cap and having the guy sit in the corner. Now everybody's wearing a dunce cap in school these days. David the Gnome. No, I don't know what you're talking about. Ever see the old cartoon David the Gnome? Yeah. No, I don't have a thing for gnomes. I'm not saying you do either, but never played a gnome in any fantasy game. Okay. So that's where we're at. Now, my past experience has been don't let that worry you. Just keep pushing on. It'll all straighten itself out. So we're going to finish him. We'll do his awkward partner as well, who also has a shitty face. And then we'll probably do Armenian spear. Okay, let's hop to it. Yeah, I dislike how he turned out, not because of the color scheme. The color scheme's just fine. It's, or at least I'm happy with it. All right, let's grab some of this color back in here. I believe it's Russian brown. Soy Sauce Hobbies. That is a great name. Good morning. Enjoying your battle report. Never played DBA, so I'm confused. When you introduce your armies, you mentioned book. Are there multiple books where the army lists are found? That is not a dumb question. So, this is DBA 3.0. It's all in one book. All the army lists are in here. DBA is based on previous WRG games, which predate me. In other words, I never played them. I never played any Ancients or Medievals until 2004. Didn't know about it. The books are a reference. They're actually listed in the back in 4 sections that are, for the most part, because of time period. So here is book 4, for instance, which is the High Medieval period up here at the top. So you've got basically 3000 BC or so through 500 BC or so is book 1. Then you've got the Roman period stuff that's basically through the fall of Rome for book 2. And then Dark Ages is book 3. And then late medieval is book 4. And the reference to the book is it's an earlier calling of how they used to refer in WRG their army lists. They were separate books, and in DBMM they still are, and they're almost like a codex of the armies. They weren't included in the actual list, so that's just kind of a carryover why they're called book this and book that. But they're all the rules are all included in here, and they're now available on Lulu as well. They've been available on Lulu, so if you're interested in the game, this comes with everything: the army lists and so forth. And my book is getting kind of damaged. I'm traveling with it. I'm kind of a book. I'm kind of a book Nazi when it comes to making sure my books look nice, but I've just kind of, I think, resigned myself to this one's just going to look like garbage. There's nothing I can do about it. It's better than some that I saw last weekend that looked like they were taped together. But that's where the book thing is. It's just a reference to, it's basically a quarter of the armies are in each one, and it was just because the previous WRG games, which were a much larger scale, were kind of in a codex, which is, I guess, kind of predates codex stuff, because those stuff is from the 70s, and you know, there's different iterations. I believe they started in the early 70s, but that predates my wargaming completely. And I've been wargaming since '85, but don't know anything about ancients and medievals until 2004. Just, back then, if people in your area didn't play a game, you didn't know about it, and it was just that simple. Unless you went to a game convention, it's not the internet where you can find out about different things. But yeah, that's what the reference to the books are. So they're listed numerically. Like book 1, I think, goes through like list 62. And then book 2 starts off with book 1, book 2, list 1. If they would have done them numerically, it'd be a little differently. That's the only reason that they're broken down. They're all included in there. And people that pick up the rules, look at the books in the back, the way the army lists in the back are listed, and the algebraic nomenclature. They're always thrown off by how the lists are listed in a somewhat algebraic fashion. It's a little bit less than 3.0 because it gives you a description of what some of the units are, instead of just being 2 by 3 kn, comma 4 by 3/4. And I tell people, it's like, okay, the army lists look really complicated, but they're easy to understand, much more so than the rules. Which the rules, it's not that the rules are that bad. The rules aren't bad at all. Okay, they're organized in a manner that you and I wouldn't organize them in if we're trying to get people to buy this thing up. It's an organization, and it's just an old style, and the author has been ripped about that for so many years, and that's just how he wants to write the rules. I don't think there's anything wrong with them once you can get through the layer of confusion. But I understand why people can't comprehend them, because I wasn't able to comprehend them for a long time, and I was an experienced wargamer in 2004 when I picked them up, and I don't consider myself a very unintelligent person. I mean, I may not be the sharpest spoon in the drawer, but I don't frequently go around life going, man, I can't figure this shit out. I just don't. And the rules were just kind of eye-opening in that respect. That it's like, well, you're going to have fun with this one, pal. Unfortunately, I have a case of painting burnout, just burnout with miniatures in general. I decided to make World War II my main focus as far as miniatures go. Well, there may just be some World War II miniatures in my future. Well, I already have plenty of them. It's just a matter of getting off my ass and painting them. But it means these guys don't get painted in the process. Maybe in the next year you'll see some of them come out. Yeah, I'm glad that cleared that up. Soy sauce hobbies. That's got to be out in. I would imagine that'd be out in Asia, wouldn't it? That's a great name. Soy sauce. Is it a sauce made of soy, or is it a sauce for soy? Because what's the one thing? There's one sauce that I don't like the name of it, but and I don't remember what it is. It sounds like, because it's made out of whatever the item of the name of the sauce is, but it's actually not correct. It's actually it is a sauce for that other item. Like, to give you an example, I don't think it's clam sauce, okay? But clam sauce, it'd be like if clam sauce wasn't made with clams, but it was a sauce to be used for clams, like when you're doing it. There's some sauce I came across with some sauce I came across with. Boy, I can't talk today. Sounds like another drink. And of course, we're talking about cold black coffee. But anyways, it was some sauce that I came across that I thought was nasty until I realized that no, it's actually not made with those things. It's for use with serving it with the other item. I forget what it was. Speaking of soy sauce, soybeans, right? Edamame, love them. You make them into a tofu, I won't touch it. I don't know what it is when it goes into tofu mode. In whole beans, they're awesome. Make them in tofu, forget it. Won't touch it. Which is strange because it did just taste bad. It's not that it's gross or anything. I don't have a problem with vegetables. Vegetables don't scare me. Good morning. Got any terrain in mind for this army? Well, I want to push through this Saloy so I can do the basing on the first one. But yeah, I've got some. It's going to be light looking. The terrain's going to be definitely light looking for this army. I'm looking forward to it. A few historical projects outside of World War II I want to do won't be a focus for me. I credit Hex and Counter War games for lessening the desire to paint miniatures. Hey, you have different stuff, so it's okay to dibble and dabble in different things. You just eat a lot of soy sauce. Someone on YouTube listed DBA 3.0 as one of the top 10 games to play. Huh. Well, a lot of people are going to disagree. There's things I don't like about it. I don't like the fact that it's so damn abstract. I've just kind of gotten used to the fact that's how it is, but that's one of the things that I don't like about it. I've just accepted it. When I got into it, I'm like, a D6? That's stupid. Because I come from a percentile background. So for me, everything was percentile. What do you mean D6? Only 6 options? That's dumb. All right, I'll play this. Hooked. So, one thing I'm going to say about DBA is appearances can be deceiving. Definitely, without a doubt. You think the game, you look at your first glance at the game, you think the game's going to be, oh, this is going to be just like, nope, you don't have a clue. Because there's all kinds of levels of detail in there that you just haven't seen come out yet. But the abstraction of it is what makes the game difficult, because unlike something like Advanced Squad Leader or something like that, that it's not a very abstract game. When you can't find the rule for something, you can kind of use logic and your experience and figure, well, it's probably going to be something like this. But you can't do that in DBA because it seems like over half the time I get it wrong if I try to guess what the author meant and then later come across the right answer. So it's just a way of thinking that I'm not used to. And I'm not a very abstract person. I don't like abstract math. I'm not bad with math. You can take that algebra 2 and blow it out your ass. I'm not interested in that. It doesn't make any sense to me. So maybe it's easier for other people. Maybe it's the texture between a whole bean and tofu. You're not vibing with it. I don't know that there's anything that I dislike texture-wise. I know lots of people have texture issues, but I grew up with a mom that made me eat all kinds of shit, and I hated it growing up. But I think it's fortunate now. I don't have texture issues with things. A lot of people, oh, do we need tomatoes because they have a funny texture? And I'm thinking, tomatoes are just tomatoes. It doesn't really matter what the texture is. They're awesome. Unless they're, no good unless they're rotten. Mr. Ian, good morning. Welcome. I think it's your first time on here. Hope you're doing better. I know you were under the weather there for a little bit. Australia's awake. About to go beddy time. Never stop painting, collecting 6mm GHQ micro armor. God, they're so expensive now. Want to build a Roman legion from mid-Republic. Well, that's not GHQ. Late Republic and early Imperial, 6mm 1-to-1 ratio. Why is that? By the way, you think the Romans are the good guys? I think they're the better guys. Let's put it that way. I had a friend of mine who won't play anything Roman because they're terrible. They're the bad guys. I'll say, well, okay, let's compare them with the people that they fought. Not really, you know. Started playing a solitaire game called The Hunted Twilight of the U-Boats. I'm commanding a Type 9C U-boat. Only 4 or 5 of them survived the war. Maybe I'll do better. Yeah, you jumped right into the 9Cs. You skipped over the Type 7s, huh? That's, I've seen those games. They look interesting. I don't want to play a solitaire game and have nobody to share it with. I mean, I guess I could play a solitaire game and film it. They have a Mediterranean one too, don't they? And a Pacific one. I don't care for the Pacific War. And I'm a naval guy. I really am. I just don't care for the Pacific War. I just don't. It's not to poo-poo any veterans or anything, or people that might have been over there. It just doesn't interest me. You know? I had people when I was growing up, when I was doing naval wargaming, that's all they wanted to do was Pacific. Because there are these mentality of people that are like, oh, there's no Americans in it, so I'm not interested. And I'm like, I'm an American every freaking day. I want to role play a little bit. You know? So I was never really into the Pacific War. Whether it's land or air or naval or... Just don't find the Japanese very interesting either. And the Americans just, they build something and then there's a million of the same thing. So from a modeler standpoint, they're kind of boring. So, okay, here's the part where you guys need to hold on to your hand grenades. You're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you. Maybe you do, because you know that I'm not a big movie watcher, and there's lots of movies I haven't seen. And I'm okay at picking up my faults. I'm not perfect. And I'm a big fan of not being afraid of talking about your limitations or your mistakes you've made, because we all make them. And there's nothing worse than to listen to somebody who's never made a mistake or they're never wrong or shit like that. You know, and then you find out that they've got some real faults that are much bigger than the ones you have. But anyways, to digress, I had never seen this movie, and I didn't avoid it. I started watching a movie yesterday morning when I was having my car serviced, and unfortunately, it only took them an hour to service the car, so I didn't finish the movie. And not only had I not seen the movie, but there's so many actors in it that I like that are in this movie, and it's Battle of Britain. I'd never seen Battle of Britain, so I watched like the first third, and I'm enjoying it, you know. Yeah, it's an old school movie or whatever, but, you know, that's the kind of movies that were around when I was a kid. I just never avoided it. I'd never seen it. I mean, obviously I know what happens. I mean, duh, you know, but maybe that's why I didn't see it. I'm like, I already know what's going to happen. So, yeah. Anywho, I'm not afraid about the talk about the things I haven't seen or... You know, I can't watch a movie or have it in the background while I'm working on my hobby. I just have to watch it. So I don't really want to spend time and watch things. And it just never must have never come on TV when I was a kid. Unlike Guns and Everon that was on like every weekend, it seemed like. And I've seen many, many times. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I saw it many times as a kid. You randomly rolled for the U-boat. I'd stick you in a Type 2. You got to work your way up from Type 2, pal. What's your coolest U-boat fact? You believe Rome was the light of the world at the time. They brought stability throughout the Mediterranean. Look what happened immediately after the Western Empire collapsed. Yeah, I'm a Rome fan. I'm not saying I'm a Rome fan, but they're better than, I believe in organization. And yeah, there was a shitload of corruption. And they had slaves. Everybody had slaves. But, hey, they didn't discriminate. They had slaves of all colors and creeds. But I value organization and shit like that. Now you start getting into I'm a bigger fan of Rome until Augustus. I don't like the whole empire thing. It's a little too, I guess I would rather have corrupt politicians I guess I prefer corrupt senators to one guy that's in charge of everything that is just a lunatic. I don't know. Rome is kind of like two Romes, and that's kind of obviously there's more partitions than that, but I prefer the Republic Romans. Battle Britain, my favorite World War II movies. Yeah. I guess it's had 20 plus years, come more abstract. The fighter scene set the standards of all flight movies, including Star Wars, which copy the drama in the cockpits. Random U-boat fact. 75% of U-boats crews died during a war. Most of any branch of the service for any country in World War II. My random U-boat fact comes from World War I. So the ace that's the most well-known of World War I, the U-boat ace is the most well-known. And I'm going to get this wrong because I don't practice this all the time. But he was the guy that was in command of U-9. And he sank those. He sank the three cruisers that were on patrol. The Creasy, Aboukir, and Hogue. Like bam, bam, bam. They were old cruisers. And he sunk them. I want to say his name is Otto Vettinger. I could have his name wrong. If I did, it's not what I meant. It was the other guy. I'm not studying this stuff all the time. So he was the commander at U-9, and it was in 1914, 1915, one of those 2 years, towards the beginning of the war. He sank those three armored cruisers. Same guy later, a couple years later, is in command of a different U-boat. And he gets killed in the action because he gets rammed. He's the only U-boat that gets rammed by a battleship, the Dreadnought. So the Dreadnought missed all the big engagements. It wasn't Jutland, wasn't it this, wasn't it the other thing. But it did catch a U-boat that had trouble. I think he had trouble. He was on the surface or he has trouble diving or something. He got rammed by the Dreadnought. And that guy got killed in it. It wasn't U-9. It was a different U-boat. So, congratulations. You're the only person that got killed by getting a battleship ramming you. A 21-knot battleship. I guess you just don't pop out in front of a ship. And the other thing is it's amazing if you go and look how much tonnage the Germans sunk in World War I with the U-boats. Because it's a lot more than you would think. It's a lot more than you would think. World War I has some really interesting stuff that happened in it, stat-wise, that you don't think of. There's a guy who does a podcast who's really, 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 really good. Most of you probably know who he is. His name is Dan Carlin. He's actually a war gamer as well, but he does. He used to have two podcasts. He used to have a political one, and he had one that's God, what's it called? I'm just, my memory is just gone. And this is without doing any drugs, folks, other than caffeine. Hardcore history, okay? And he does really interesting podcasts, and he does a little mini one that's maybe 30 minutes long, and it was really fascinating because it was a question somebody asked him, and the premise of his little show on this particular one was who had the better military, the World War I Germans or the World War II Germans. And it's really eye-opening and really interesting to kind of look how he goes through all the different things. So late Republic, from the reign of Marius to the Second Triumvirate, is where the real political intrigue is. I really enjoy the latest Hannibal games. Yep. Yeah, they were good. Otto Vettingen. Okay. He was in command of U-29 when that battleship rammed his U-boat. Yeah, crazy thing. Crazy thing. So the bad thing is don't get that guy as a skipper and the submarine end and have a number 9 in the numeral. It's going to be a bad cruise. Yeah, what's hard to find is if you're trying to play a game in World War One, what things could the destroyers do against them? What things could destroyers do against U-boats at the beginning of the war? I don't think they had depth charges. And of course, the U-boats really couldn't dive that far, but I really like the World War One time period for wargaming, for naval wargaming, but you still have those things that kind of ruin the wargame, and that's aircraft. You know, there is very limited, but you can have an aircraft thing that keeps forces from not wanting to fight each other, kind of thing. And then you got to figure out how you're going to deal with U-boats and that kind of stuff for spotting. And I think I need to paint this guy's ear a little bit. Luckily, I have a little bit of this left. And that's all I used to play. All I used to play was naval war games. And then now, I don't know if I'd go back to them because there's just a lack of stuff on the board. There's not like a little tree there you can go and take and conquer, and it's just trying to outmaneuver each other. And there's just not a lot of meaningful decisions you make from turn to turn. So I picked an actual U-boat that was the U-boat class I landed with. I picked U-75, and unfortunately, the real U-75 was sunk in 43. So hopefully you can do better. There you go. So you're trying to do better than a real Nazi. Got it. Oh man, I am not a Nazi, and I've played Nazis so many times. I only play them on the board game. I only play them on board games and miniatures. It's funny. And I play a lot of Eastern Front wargaming. A lot. That's my favorite venue. I never call them Nazis and Soviets. I always call them Russians and Germans. I skip the political bullshit. I just call them what they are. I know, not all the Russians are actually Russians. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, the thing with Romans, okay, people that the Romans fought that are interesting. Well, everybody likes the Carthaginians. I'm not a Carthaginian fan. I actually, before I got into ancient wargaming, I would have said, yeah, I like the Carthaginians more than the Romans. And then I learned to read about the Carthaginians, and I'm like, there's just all kinds of stuff I don't like about them. Forget the child sacrifice thing. They just don't look as cool. I mean, yeah, they had elephants, but they had a complete mercenary army. And I'm not real excited about that. For painting wise, it's good, but the only guy that's more interesting to me than the Romans would be the two successors, Pyrrhus and Seleucus, the Seleucids. Those guys are more interesting, and they have a combined arms force. That's what makes them really interesting. But you're talking about you lost your oomph for painting. I get it. We go through little ups and downs. I don't see ever building scale models again for the purpose of scale models ever in my entire life. I think it's stupid for me to do that. It's nothing I'm particularly interested in. Now, we need to go lighter than that on this. I could just use this and just lighten it up. It's going to look too close to the flesh. And video games. I tried to do a little bit of video gaming yesterday and just get bored. I've got nobody to share it with. It's different if you're playing it with somebody. I'm a social gamer. So 1914. Always loved the Emden in 1914. Don't say that too loud. They're gonna think your ancestors were running a coaling station. It's David Manley's Find, Fix, and Strike for World War II Naval. The combat system is derived for DBA. I would hate it then. I am a devout rivet counter when it comes to naval warfare, especially World War II and World War I. I'm just such a nut about it. I mean, I grew up with, go look at my book reviews. That's the book. There's one book in there that was on my table growing up as a kid, and that just kind of inspired every bit of love I have for we'll call it dreadnought warfare. Everything World War I and World War II. And I just can't take anything less detailed than that. I just can't. I don't have it in me. If I was an ancient nut, I wouldn't be able to handle DBA. I would want more detail. But because I'm not, it'd be like, I could never play Flames of War. Okay, let me take that back. I've played Flames of War. I could never be into Flames of War. It's just not enough detail for me. So that's just my jam, So definitely Sea Creek all the way. We grew up playing Sea Creek 4. Played many, many, many games of it, which by the amount of games that I've played of DBA is insignificant. But we played at the time over 100 games of it. Of course, that's, you go for a day and you only play one game of it. You're not playing multiple games in a session. And Joe that comes and plays with us, he's one of the guys that runs Sea Creek 5 with the designers at conventions. I didn't get into Sea Creek 5 because it kind of came out in 2000. It came out in 2005, I think. And I was kind of already out of that scene. I have the set of rules, but They'll run it at cons, but it's a game really that you need to play all game, not in a 4-hour session. You can't really do anything significant in 4 hours. And I don't mind that it moves slow. It's because I'm a detail nut. So, all right, I want to paint this shield how somebody painted their shield on this Pinterest picture. So let me zoom out of here and pull this up. Yeah, I'm stealing somebody else's idea. Well, they shouldn't have done such a damn good job with it. I liked how it turned out. And I don't want to spend 6 days cogitating about how I'm going to paint this guy. So let's go to here. This will only take a minute. Man, the coffee's not working this morning. Come on. Red rimmed. Maybe I won't make it as complicated as that one. That's pretty complicated for a little Saloy's shield. And the other Saloy doesn't even have a shield. All right, so it's red rimmed, mostly white, and then has some blue on it. What's the center? We'll do the center yellow. Okay, all right, I got it. We're gonna leave this up like this so I could just switch between them when I need to look at it. Sorry about that. You doubled over in my recliner with my intestinal issues for the last 6 hours. Had 2 great days, and then when it was hit midnight, the floodgates opened. That was it. Oh, man. Problem I face with Ancients, Medievals, Wargame, I am in a history of those periods to an extent I can't find a game that replicates the periods to my liking. Yeah. What about that board game? What do you think about this? Oh, this is going to be loud, isn't it? Shit. What about this series? Great Battles of the Ancient World, I think is what it's called. What do you think of them? It looks like a pretty detailed system. Anyhow, Scott didn't want this. He gave it to me, and there's scenarios in here, so stay tuned. We may do some of these scenarios in DBA form. It's not that DBA is the end all. It just allows you to finish games. I mean, look how many games we did of the Punic War. I mean, yeah, there's better representations for it, but we were able to complete them all. You know, and I'm kind of hooked on that. I'm hooked on being able to finish every game I started. You know, I played a naval game for 26 hours straight and wasn't bored for a second, but we didn't finish. And that's just really unsatisfying. That's really unsatisfying to spend that much time and then there's not a conclusion. It's like poetry. Well, did you win? Well, do you think you won? No. Stop that crap, you know? I want a conclusion. Even if it's a loss. So. I'm actually contemplate using that system as well. One of the Men in Iron from GMT, which covers the medieval period. The problem I have with war games, with board war games, isn't that they're a board war game, isn't how they look. Honestly, most hex and counter games look really good. They really do. They look plenty good. The problem is that The Igo-Yugo system is very forced. Like, I'd never play Advanced Squad Leader again because I couldn't handle the, oh, this is the prep fire phase. Oh, this is the whatever phase. Oh, this is the something something phase. You know, I'm fine with Igo-Yugo, but let me get an action and I get to pick what it is. Or maybe it's random who gets to go. But just, you know, everything, we're okay, everybody's moving now. Everybody's shooting now. And all the other guy sits around and wait. I like the back and forth much better. Much, much better. All right, we said we had a red rim on this shield. All right, let's grab Land of the Reds. Speaking of Land of the Reds, happy May Day to you. Is there going to be a big parade in Moscow today? I don't know. Probably not. I always liked the old War Games research group, Modern Naval Games, Sea Strike. Oh, I've never heard of that one. I have the rules for Shipwreck. I just haven't had the gusto to go and read them. I even have little ships for Modern. Any of you guys going to be watching the big May Day parade through Red Square? Is it still called Red Square? I don't know. I don't know what's going on over there. I'm not paying attention. I'm not paying attention on purpose. So. What is May Day anyways? The day that all the workers of the world unite and get exploited together by the lie that is communism? You know, there's always going to be people at the top. There's always going to be people at the bottom. So to lie to everybody and say that we're all equal when it's never going to be that way is just blatantly disingenuous. Oh no, I upset communist. Tough. Don't be a communist. Love to use a chit draw system to determine what formation activates. That would be good. Makes the games more tense and unpredictable. He won't be watching. I tried Sea Strike, couldn't get into it, I'm afraid. Shipwreck, not Sea Strike. You couldn't get into Shipwreck. Okay, I can see that. It looks, I need to see somebody playing the rules to see if it's... I started reading them, and I can't... I don't like the idea that, as a player, I can see everything that's going on, and I can react to it to a degree, even though the ship wouldn't be able to. I don't know. I just... It needs a pip mechanism. I just got them. I wanted to paint some models. And I wanted to do some scenarios, but I don't know if it's my thing. I play Shipwreck. It's much more playable than Harpoon. I have a friend of mine that used to love Harpoon, and we never did anything. But there's a number of important things left out, like recon aircraft. You'll be watching a Mets game tonight, so no Mayday. Mets threw a combined no-hitter on Friday night. I've been fortunate enough to see both no-hitters for the Mets live. There was when I was younger, when I was about 10 or 11, I got a video game A standalone video game. I don't remember who even made them, but it was this machine. It was a baseball game, and it was just a series of red dots, and you could score, and you had to time when the ball came in. You had to time at the right time. You would hit it, and it would go, and it would tell you what the results were, whether you hit a base run or a home run or whatever. And I forget what it was, but this was probably like 1982 or something like that, and I played it quite a bit. I don't know what the hell it's called. It's probably worth a fortune now. Or they'll probably tell you it's worth a fortune and then nobody wants it. That's what they don't tell you. They'll go like, oh, that's worth $10,000. Well, how much will you give me for it? Nothing. I don't even want it. Because, it's like these people that want you to buy gold, right? Buy gold, buy gold, buy gold. Okay, I'll buy it for $100. Okay. All right. And then a year later, I want to sell it. It's gone up. All right, I'll give you $20 for it. Like, I just want to buy things I like, not for investment purposes, because it's always one of those rackets. And seems to me, looking at it from the outside, it seems to be that that's the case. Like people that collect baseball cards. That's cool if you're into baseball, right? I'm not, so there's no reason for me to collect baseball cards. But I'm collecting them for the money. Whatever, dude. I think you're better off gambling in Vegas, but okay, which I also don't do. Hey, as you once said, you can't be into everything. It's true. It's wise. You can't be in everything. Looks like it's still called Red Square. Really? Bastards. Huge baseball fan. Not sure if I mentioned that before. You did not. That's okay. Even with the strike. Way back. When was that? Like 93, 94, 95, 96? Somewhere in the late 90s. Baseball strike didn't lose you. I can't say that I know anybody who's a baseball fan. And I don't mean by, everybody I know hates baseball. I'm just saying somebody who's like, that's their thing. Oh, the father-in-law was. Definitely. But he used to play. Not professionally, but. But maybe it's just not big in this part of the country. I don't know. I don't think I want to use this blue. What blue is this? Oh, the Prussian blue. It doesn't have it on the top. Cricket is the biscuit rule game. Same thing. Harpoon takes rivet counting to extreme. It does and it doesn't. Harpoon is like the worst of technology because it focuses on shit I'm not interested in. Like I'm interested in like armor, weapons, all that kind of stuff. I don't like the fact that modern things can't see each other when they fire at each other. It's kind of anticlimactic. But it's too much electronics and not enough like the other stuff. I don't know. It just doesn't. It takes it to the extreme because there's so many things to figure out, and you ship and okay, let's move it. Okay, done. You only move like a third of an inch or something like that, so you don't ever cross any portion of the board where it feels like you're doing movement. Let's use this blue and we'll just lighten it up some. They just had a strike this season. Unfortunately, the lockdown ended. Should strike the mid-90s. Did make me stop watching until 2004. Been watching each season since. Love the history of the game and the game in general. Have I ever been on a World War II or World War II World War One or World War Two ship, Tony? No, I'm much too young to have ever served on either one of those. I have. Um, I have, and the thing that strikes me is how much larger you think they are. It's not saying that they're small. I'm just, I cruise all the time. Cruise ships dwarf. I mean dwarf anything. Not all cruise ships, but the ones I go on. The cruise ship. The last cruise ship I went on is 3 times bigger than the Yamato by displacement. 3 times? Almost 3 times. 64 times 3. Yeah, I've been on one. It's 225,000 tons. That's just crazy. And so I'm kind of used to that. But I've been on the Alabama. We were going to go 2 years ago and hit the North Carolina on the way up to Historicon. And of course, that was the year that what happened. So we're supposed to redo that trip this summer. So hit the North Carolina up. I've been on the museum that's in Charleston. No, it's actually in Patriot Point, which I believe it's the second Yorktown. It's the Essex class Yorktown. And they have the whole hangar section. It's kind of like a museum or whatever. I remember having these dioramas of like the forces that were at Midway. And, it's 1/700 scale in formation. So, the diorama would be like the size of maybe this room. And the Japanese ships would be in formation. And the U.S. ships would be in formation. They were steaming in. I remember that. I've been on whatever the U.S. submarine that was there. I don't know that it's still there. And the destroyer that used to be there called the Laffey, which survived, I think, a multiple kamikaze hits, which is pretty impressive. That's almost like saying surviving multiple torpedo hits on a destroyer, which is basically catastrophic. You get hit by a torpedo and a destroyer, it's coitance for you. But unless they're duds. What else have I been on this World War II ship? World War I ship, never been on one. I haven't been on the Texas. And I hear the Texas is in really bad shape these days. But I've been outside the Texas. I remember when I was a kid and I wanted to go and we weren't able to go because it was closing. My parents were notoriously for getting everywhere late. So doesn't work well with being able to see stuff. What else have I been on? Of those, I think that may be it. Just don't have much of an opportunity to do it. Not that I have anything against it. So I don't like heights. I don't know that I'm scared of heights. I don't like heights. And one thing that's ever struck me, I've been on the deck of a carrier a couple times in port, and I'm surprised how windy it was. Really surprised how windy it is. And you're almost doing like kind of like a low crawl. I don't know that you'd be able to grab on, there'd be anything to grab onto, but I guess it's just kind of nature of just doing a low crawl because it just feels like you're going to get blown over the side. I'm not worried about getting thrown in the water. I'm getting worried about being thrown, 50 feet off the ship into the water. Yeah, I always thought it was creepy how windy it is across the deck, and the ship isn't even moving. Tells you what kind of conditions those guys were working out in the ocean. They used to do this thing in the 90s and before where you could go up to Mayport Naval Base, and they'd always have a ship that you could do a tour on. Might be an O.H. Perry class frigate, or maybe it was a Spruance class destroyer or something like that. But there was always something they could do and do that. And I think 9/11 put an end to that. And but I remember I went up there one time, and they had three Soviet. That's what they were at the time. 3 Soviet ships that were in visiting, and one of them was a Slava class. There's a Slava and like a Savremeni and a Udaloy or something like that. And you could I think you could tour them. I think they were doing tours of one of the Soviet ships, but we arrived too late and couldn't do it. My people weren't my people. My folks weren't early risers. They're not like me that gets up at 5 a.m. They get up whenever and have breakfast at 10:30, and I'm like, that's like third breakfast, 10:30. Been on Iowa class battleship, New Jersey. Quite a sight to see up close. Yeah, it's almost not in New Jersey. It's right across the river from Philly. Rugby's a romance, sport dirt. I just don't. I don't get watching sports. I mean, I'm definitely the exception. I just don't understand getting excited about somebody else's triumphs that I don't feel any connection to anybody that's playing that. I've been on the Belfast. Yeah. Back in 72 after opening a museum ship. Yeah. Belfast got cool camo on it. Love the British camo. I love the British World War II ship camo schemes. You're an Anglophile. I love the Brits. Don't say that too loud. People don't hate the Brits here. I like playing the Brits in World War II. I like playing the Germans in World War One. And by that is, I'll play anybody. But my preference is to play those in that conflict. I don't know how this is going to turn out. We're just going to wing it. And then it has a center boss in yellow that somebody did. And I don't know if it's going to work, but you know what? I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the center boss in metal. When in doubt, go with what I like. And we have a new lead belcher now. We went and bought it. Where is the new lead belcher? That's Grey Knight steel. The Midlands surrounded by battlefields. 15 miles from Naseby. I don't care for other sports. Hockey's a maybe, that's it. Ancestry on my mother's side originates in Northumbria. Northumbria sounds like a place that's been gang raped by Vikings. So in this army, I'm excited. I get to paint an element. I get to paint some troops that I've never painted before. And I should say that this one's really brown looking. A very brown looking lead belcher. I'm used to what my lead belcher looks like. Maybe they changed the formula on it. So the unit I've never painted any of are Normans. I've never painted any Normans. I've never painted any Normans as Normans. So there's 6 of them I'll get to paint using these old school figures that nobody loves. I think they'll turn out just fine. I may even do them soon. Or as they call them in the UK, the bad guys. That was news to me. I had no idea. That's because it was That's because it was gang raped by the Vikings. Northumbria sounds like a place that's gang raped by Vikings. That makes sense because it was a place that was gang raped by Vikings. Lindisfarne is located there. Yeah, I know. Now I'm laughing about rape. You know what I mean. I'm not getting anything graphic by him. Only the monks got raped. Get over it. Just started watching Vikings again. I'm maybe 5 episodes in, and I've seen all the way. I've seen like 4 seasons of it, and I've just forgotten the details. It's just not something that I'm thinking about all the time. But the guy that plays whatever that actor's name is, that plays the monk that ends up getting taken as the prisoner, he's all right in that, but he's really good as Louis XIV in Versailles. He's really, really good. He does a really good job in that, except for he makes 0 attempt for a French accent. Bastard. But he's really good as Louis XIV. I don't know how accurate that is of Louis XIV, but Louis XIV just sounded like a character that you needed to kiss up to, but the whole time you're kissing up to him, he knows you're kissing up to him, and he's going to call you on it at one end. So it's like, you got to kiss up to him, but he really knows what's going on. So kind of a guy that's just not going to be controlled by anybody. That's actually, I think, a really good series. Mitch and I enjoyed it. And, it's just court intrigue for the most part. Almost the entire thing, but I don't know. I thought it was really interesting. Really, really interesting. Do some detail on the boots here, and this guy's... Oh, we got to do the little quiver things that come out. The fletching. I end up using words here I never use on a date. I mean, when the hell do you say fletching in your daily routine? So yeah, I'm watching the Vikings things, and I just don't remember stuff. Of course, I only watch things one time. I don't remember how they get rid of the Earl, and he gets in control, because he's pretty much a penis wrinkle at this point. But, I guess that's what you got to do to stay in control. All right, we're going to call this turd done. And I'm going to reserve judgment until he's completely sealed. Because I'm telling you, something happens, some magic happens in the shield, in the sealing process. We're just going to move him to the side and work on the other guy, which will be painted the same. Except this guy does not have any, does not have a buckler. I may need to get a beverage here. Let's see. I saw the first season of The Last Kingdom. I don't like the main guy. I don't like him at all. So it's difficult to watch him. Now, if he looked like Lagertha a little bit, then maybe I'd watch it more. I like the show because, yeah, I think you were just getting to that. Yeah. Everybody has to have something for somebody. If they did, of course, they wouldn't do it right. If they did a Byzantine court politics with there were some really powerful women in the Byzantine court politics stuff of the 8 and 900s. They could do a really good series if they did it right. I mean, you need that kind of stuff to get viewers that aren't into history watching. So, if you want to see, stuff that, some women in charge of some stuff. There was a couple empresses that really were manipulating things behind the scenes and in the front of the scenes. Irene and Zoe and, who was the other one? The one that was supposed to be the most beautiful woman in the world? Eudokia. Most beautiful woman in the world with the most ugliest name. Somebody out there maybe likes the name Eudokia. It's not me. But anyways, you could do some really cool stuff if you. But Hollywood would just screw it all up, and they'd be like, "Oh, this isn't strange enough. We got to do another spin on it." But and I gotta remember what colors I use for this guy. I gotta go get it. I gotta go get a Coke. I gotta go indulge my Coke habit. I'll be right back. Oh, you don't either. I think he was annoying as Adam Driver. Exactly. He's just somebody that I wouldn't follow I wouldn't follow him anywhere. Surprised to find my favorite actress, Claire Murphy, is in The Last Kingdom as the Sorceress Queen. She's quite lovely. Theodore. Yeah, but you got to get away from Justinian because he's an asshole. I can't stand Justinian. After reading about Belisarius, I wanted to dig up Justinian and do something to him. That man got dissed. And I'm not even Greek, Storyline of the last, you like the storyline of The Last Battle more, but the acting and the actors of Viking more. Oh, okay. I'll be right back, folks. It'll only be a GIF. I'm not even going to switch the camera. Now, a series I haven't seen and I haven't seen it because it's not accessible at the time. It's that whole series that they did on the War of the Roses. What's it called? The White Queen or something like that. I haven't seen any of those. And I haven't seen The Spanish Princess. And the two women that play in those lead roles are kind of cute. But they're just not available. So I love historical stuff like that. It doesn't have to be about combat. Because if they leave combat out, you don't run into these situations like, well, that's not how combat went, or why is everybody dismounted when they were really mounted? So leaving the combat out isn't a problem, but it just kind of gives you some historical stuff to percolate about while you're while you go out and find out what really happened. Storyline of the Blast Battle. They have laws against that, Tony. Against what? I missed it. Oh, digging him up. Empress Theodora, and then it's just saying to make a great historical drama show. I hate those guys. God, I hate those guys. Because they pretended to be nice. And Justinian got screwed. What a freaking great subject they had, and they just abused him. And it seemed like if they would have just treated him like they would a normal guy, it didn't seem like the guy would have rebelled and took over. He just seemed like a genuine nice guy. I don't know. And I haven't even read Procopius, which definitely supposedly spins Justinian in a bad light. I've read like compilation things that, from different sources, so I'm not a fan. I'm also not a fan of people that are more politicians than they are generals. I want to read about guys that are generals and then they end up, and do generally stuff. I don't, Justinian was a politics guy, and he was into politics and religion more than, he never commanded an army in battle. So I don't want to read about those. You don't get to be that guy in DVA. I'm not a politics guy anyways, so. Freaking Justinian. Okay, so we got a cloak here. Not a cloak, his jacket. His jacket. I believe that's what we use for it. This is what we're going to do. We need to use a shittier brush. One that's not. Boy, this thing it's plenty moist, but it's all crinkle crocked. We're just going to keep going with it. Let's go over to this side over here. Like the Tudors. I watched most of the Tudors and then just gave up. I couldn't stand the guy as Henry VIII. He didn't look like him. He didn't even look like him at all. And it's just like, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I watched 4 seasons of it. So it doesn't have to have combat stuff in it. If it's got kissy stuff in it, I'm fine. I know why they do that. They do that to get the female viewers. I don't live with a female that even watches anything historical like that. She wouldn't be able to handle it. So unfortunately, that's lost in my scenario. Good series called Magnificent Century. I started watching it. I think Nordic would like the Russian girl, who's the head one. Yeah, I watched like 4 episodes of it, and then just kind of lost along the way. It was okay. Yeah, it was all right. The only problem is it's in Turkish, but it's free from Hollywood influences. Yeah, I watch everything with subtitles, so. Yeah, Nordic would like that head girl, whoever she is, the one that ends up. ends up taking over. I forget what her name is. The actress is actually half Turkish and half German, so I actually love The Tudors. One of my favorite shows. The period around John Semiscus would be interesting. I got to think about how to say that because fighting more ladies for a harem now. Well, that show's actually about a harem. You know, I don't know that there's any nudity in it. I mean, there doesn't need to be any nudity in it. So it's a lot of intrigue. I would rather watch a show like that that has court intrigue and I don't like that girl because she did this to me, than something like Walking Dead that's supposed to be an action show but has all that crap in it anyways. So when you go in knowing that it's a court intrigue type of thing, like Versailles or something like that, it doesn't bother me. It's where it belongs. But Walking Dead, come on, man. I don't like her. She looked at me funny. I don't know. She took my axe. No. No. Cut the bullshit out. Tudors 1 is the least accurate historical TV shows ever made. The guy just doesn't look like Henry VIII. End of story. Done. And it's interesting. Compare the guy that plays Louis XIV on Versailles to Henry VIII on the Tudors. And they're a similar type of character, you know. But the Louis XIV is so much better. It's so much better. You know, the Tudors has no good characters in it. I didn't care for them. There's nobody I care for. And Versailles has all kinds of good characters. Now, I don't like half of them, but the other half are really good. Yeah, Magnificent Century. That's what it's called. It's one of those that's difficult to find if you don't know what it's called because it has a kind of a generic name. And I think it's on Amazon or something like that. It used to be on Netflix. I watched the 4 episodes on Netflix. It's I don't know why I stopped watching it. Just wasn't building Turks or something. It was okay. It seemed like the dress was well laid out. So that's the thing about Turks and Persians, man. If you're the son of the guy in charge, and the guy in charge dies, there's going to be a civil war, and whoever wins ends up killing all their brothers. So I don't know what it is about that culture, but most of the time, and it happened with the Persians too, you know. I don't think the Persians were that bad of an overlord as far as, you know, if you get taken over by them now. I got news for you. I'm never rooting for them. I'm always rooting for the Greeks. So I'm very Western in my ways. But, you know, the Persians didn't seem like they were that bad. But man, if you were the second Persian in charge, if you were the second son, you're either gonna have a civil war or you're gonna get strangled or killed or, you know, whatever it is that they offed you at. And your whole family too. Just for stability purposes. It's really quite amazing. And that kind of carried over into the Ottoman Turks as well. So, and some of it happened in the Byzantines as well. Like, we're going to send you off to a monastery. Okay, never mind. I don't want to be in charge anymore. You can go ahead and take over. I'll go to a monastery. And then it's like, yeah, I'll take you over to a monastery, but we'll blind you first. And then, oops, we blinded you. We did a shitty job in blinding you, so you die in pain. And you're blind. You know, just bad stuff. You're better off being a subject than relating to the guy in charge kind of thing. John Semiscus. He screwed his. He didn't screw. He murdered his uncle though. I have to read more about it. Um, what's the Russian woman's name from the Turkish show? Aha! Yeah, it was horribly inaccurate, but I overlooked it because it was entertaining. Is it Mirzem? I don't know. Yeah, I think she's slightly redhead. She's cute. Please feel free to share. No, it was interesting. It was an interesting show. There's just, when I'm watching it, I can only watch it at lunchtime. It's not like I can't watch it here. It's just, I'd rather paint. I'd rather do this with you guys. Or without you guys. You know? Is the harem where you get to pick your own people, or is it like the sister wife thing, like the one wife picks the other one, so they progressively get less and less attractive? Like somebody comes up with the idea, I want to have multiple wives, and the wife goes along with it. Yeah, and I get to pick them, and each one successively gets worse. That's not what you had in mind, was it? I was trying to think of what that show was that you recommended that I watched, and I think it was called what, The Forgotten Battle or whatever. I was thinking about that last night. I was trying to find something to watch with my mom, and then I saw it. I'm like, I think it's too much of a war movie and not enough of something that wouldn't appeal to her. But I remember really liking it. I liked that recommendation. I really enjoyed that movie. It was a nice balance between combat and behind the scenes Holocaust kind of stuff happening. I picked those who dwell. Remember all the fugly women are in Rick's harem, as well as the hippo women. Yeah, the hippo women. Mitch has a thing for the hippo women. He has a kick. The big joke for that. I think that was a big city. I think it was a relatively big city in Carthage. Hippo and Utica. Yeah, I want to say there was one other one. Tunis. Yeah. Those are fun games. You're suffering from a case of Utica. So I didn't watch A Forgotten Battle last night. Watched half of a movie that I'm not going to tell you what it is. I don't want anybody to spoil it for me. And I'm not even going to tell you who's in it. I don't want somebody to spoil it for me. Well, I'm going to go watch a second. We had an hour left to go, and I'm like, I don't have an hour in me, so we're going to watch the rest of it today. Trying to keep her company. She lives 7 doors down. She's older, so. But she's into suspense, action movie stuff, you know. So. I picked this movie. That's the thing is, I gotta make like a list or something, because it's like, hey, what do you want to watch? And I'm like, I don't know. And you go through Amazon. No. And most movies are garbage. You know, no. All right, let me go through Netflix. No. Let me go through, you know, one movie I didn't see, and everybody's a hubbub. Any guys who've seen it, is it worth watching that Bird Box thing? It's not the one I watched, but it was like, is that even worth watching, or I'm just wasting my time? There's a movie on Netflix that is my kind of movie. There's lots of movies that are my kind of movie, and this one in particular, it's called How It Ends. And the first half of the movie is awesome. And the second half of the movie makes you wish they never made the movie. It first of all leaves you hanging. So it has one of those endings that are kind of vague. That's the first thing I don't like. Things don't have to have a happy ending for me, but I want, you know, closure. Otherwise, I just wasted my time. And it was just hastily thrown together. But the first half of the movie is awesome. But anyhow, is Bird Box worth my time? So I picked another movie that looked interesting. It was based on an actress that's in it that I happen to like, although she probably looks the worst that she's ever looked because she has no makeup on, which brought me to the point that, you know, we're sensitized to these women that are on TV and stuff, and you see them, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, they're an 11. But then when they're out of that mode and you see them in the real world, they're like a 3. Not really, but you know what I'm saying? And we just get desensitized to these people walking around, you know, in the stuff that they do. And they're unrealistic looking. But anyways, she looked terrible. Not terrible, but she just total plain Jane. But it's actually, I'm enjoying the movie so far. And since I'm one of those people that does not, when I'm watching a movie, I'm not trying to figure it out. Like whodunit, I'm just kind of along for the ride. It's enjoyable. Like I'll watch like mystery stuff with the wife and daughter, and especially the daughter. And she's already got it figured out. Like I knew it was so and so, and I'm like, I'm just along for the ride. I'm not trying to figure anything out. And it's one of those that has the plot where you don't know anything about the character. The character's got kind of a condition that doesn't really know what's going on. And you as a viewer also don't know what's going on. I call that the Stranger Things phenomenon, where you're finding things out as the characters are finding things out. And I think that's a good formula. The season 1 of Stranger Things, I should say. I have to say, I hate painting horse furniture. You've never heard of it. That's that thing that was a big hubbub on Netflix. It's a one that's got what's her face in it. I know, that's so descriptive. Sandra Bullock. And it's kind of horror, thriller type thing. If it's thriller, I'll watch it. If it's horror, I don't want to see it. It just puts ideas in my head that are just bullshit. You don't remember the details of Bird Box now, but I do remember thinking it was okay. A bit better than average. To try to figure out who did the killing when I watch episodes of Midsummer Murders. Okay, well maybe I'll give it a shot. That movie, The Village. I didn't see it until I knew what the plot was. I didn't know all the details of the plot. But there's no way in hell I would have watched that movie live. That just, it ends up not being a horror movie. Sorry if I'm spoiling it for you. I'm not going to give away all the details. It's not a horror movie, but from the previews, you would think that it would be. And I'm like, I can't watch that. I don't do masks and stuff like that well. And if I would have seen that live and I didn't know about it, that would have just blown my mind. That would have just totally blown my mind. But there's no way I'd watch something like that. I don't do masks. I don't do masks. I don't do scary outfits. Clowns, who gives a shit about clowns? Clowns are stupid. I'm just talking about demonic type, that kind of shit. But I'll watch Bird Box if it's not some kind of, if it doesn't show anything, I'll watch it. If it starts having all these, jump scares and stuff like that, I'm not interested in it. My job's too stressful to put up with that BS when I'm not at it. Oh, too soon. Okay, I remember seeing that on Netflix the other night. I enjoy M. Night Shyamalan movies. He's from my neck of the woods in Pennsylvania. I don't know that I've seen that many of them. Of his stuff. Other than that one. I never saw the I See Dead People thing. The problem with movies with twists is everybody talks about them. So by the time you get around seeing it, you already know it's got one hell of a twist in it. Which I actually don't mind. I don't mind that kind of stuff, but still, one of the best ones for that is that episode from that Netflix series called Black Mirror. There's an episode in there called White Bear, and that episode is epic. Epic. It's like 45 minutes long. If you've never seen it, go on there. It's called Black Mirror. It's a series of shorts. They're all self-contained. And this particular episode, I believe it's season 2 or season 3. The episode's called White Bear. And it's one of the best things I've seen in a few years. So, recommend it. Really thought-provoking. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, when I say thought-provoking, I mean that as a good thing. You're not just sitting there with your mouth agape, just drooling, watching television. So. Thing you watched recently enjoy the most, the Reacher series. Is it very predictable? It seems like it'd be very predictable. Will I have to be going now? I feel like I can finally get some sleep. Non-intestinal issues have finally been dulled a great deal. All right, man. Good luck with that. Hope you feel better. Sunday morning. It says most of people are on here now. I've got to stop at, I think I have to stop at 8. I probably do. But I'll probably be back on later. So I really want to get these guys done. Because I want to see what they look like with the ground. The ground texture. That's got to be Anikaru. No! Oh, I thought, Jared, your icon looks very close to Anikaru. You guys both have a very white, off-white things. That episode was fantastic. You talking about White Bear? If you are, it's great. Yeah, it's great. The other one that's really good is called Metalhead. It's in black and white. I really enjoyed Metalhead. And I don't like black and white things, but it's almost like black and white with really high definition black and white. Those 2 episodes, I'll be honest with you, I liked most episodes of it. That's kind of the science fiction I can handle because it's modern day, but some episodes, But White Bear is great. And I like the concept of short little things. Like, I don't like watching series because you're like, oh, left me hanging. I got to watch the next one. Oh, left me hanging. I got to watch the next one. I like to be like 45 minutes done. You know? I actually like that series because it made you think. Not heavy thinking, but just kind of, kind of processing how this new technology would manifest itself in your own world. Or I don't know, it just really, I enjoy the concept of it. So hopefully they'll make more. I recommended I was talking to some people at work about somehow we got on the subject of those Choose Your Own Destiny books. Remember that they had those in the early 80s? Well, they might have had them earlier than that, but, my age, you encounter them in the early 80s. If you decide to go left or right, turn to page 140. If you decide to go this way, turn to the other page. And there was that Black Mirror Bandersnatch, which sounds like a bad porno, but episode that I remember watching it, and I wasn't. It was impressive that you could choose how it went, what your character did. I think you could do it 2 or 3 times during the series. It wasn't like it was all the time, and choose different endings. But something about the vibe of that episode, if I remember correctly, was almost horror-like. So I was kind of sitting at the edge of my seat. Maybe I don't remember it correctly, but it seemed a little too more horror than I would have liked. As you said, White Bear were just so thought-provoking. It is. It's incredible. It's incredible. You guys haven't seen it. It's like the 2nd or 3rd episode on the 2nd or 3rd season. I want to say it's the 2nd season. White Bears. They should do more stuff like that. Just jump into it. They don't have to explain the backstory of all these characters. Just figure it out as you go. We'll have a whole series where everybody has memory loss. Here's a character. They can't remember shit. All right, start going with it. You just figure things out as you go. I like that. It's a great concept. You stop dancing around the problem, What did I recently see that was zombie related? And it was fairly good and then just went sideways. It was 2 seasons. Something was on Netflix that was zombie related. And it just jumped right into action. It didn't explain how it happened. That's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. And the first season was okay. And the second season, I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix. And what was that called? Anyways, it was okay. The first season was all right. It was all right because one of the things that was unique about it is it would have like these groups of people, and I'm not into zombies because of the zombies. I'm into zombies because it's like, okay, you're in this wasteland where things don't work and you have to kind of create your own rules. That's the part that I like about it. Like, if you just snap your fingers and there would be no laws, how would you behave? So I like that concept of your own morality and how you would do stuff. But the zombies is irrelevant. You know, it could be different other kind of situation. That's just a convenient thing to give you a catalyst for creating that situation. But oh, Black Summer. Black Summer season one's it's good because one of the things that they do is you get these little groups and they eventually end up working into each other. But you have these little vignettes and it'll go and it'll have this one thing going on for like 3 minutes and then it'll go to something else and then it'll go to something else and eventually they interact with each other. And what's really interesting without spoiling it is that there'll be like different groups that'll go on like a mission, and I wish more shows would do stuff like this. Like you have like, say you have like a team of like 10 people that have to go on a mission to do something. Like, I'm gonna go over here and distract this and you go over here and do this while I'm doing that or whatever. And it follows the track of one of those groups, and then they get to some part towards ending that mission, and then they go back to one of the other groups and follow what they encountered. And they did that 3 or 4 times, and it wasn't confusing, and it was really interesting to see the different viewpoints of kind of, it was almost like, you know, if you had like a war game and you've got like this squad that has to encircle this position. It would be like if you did that. Remember that scene in Saving Private Ryan where the squad split up? They had to take out that radar position, and they split up in different. It's like if you went and you showed what one of the groups did in their little end around, and you did another one where you showed them what they did, and it was just interesting to see how you could see exactly what was coming from each point, but you followed it through. It wasn't constantly jumping back and forth. I wish more things did that, but you know, I get it. It's probably a pain in the ass to film that. But White Bear, baby. And Metalhead's not bad either. That's the only 2 that jump out at me. There's probably 2 other ones that I enjoyed as well. I just don't remember what they are right now. All right, let's do the blue pants. Royal blue. Pompous blue. Everybody that I've recommended White Bear to has really liked it. The other movie that's really good that I always recommend, and these are relatively new things. It's not like something that I saw 20 years ago that I'm like, oh, this is like the best thing ever. I mean, they're relatively new things. Is that movie with what's that guy's character's name? What's that actor? I mean, he's not super well known. I don't think that he's super well known, but it's called The Devil's Double. And The Devil's Double is a great movie. White Bear's premise makes me think of the movie Memento. It's so much better than Memento, though. Memento is just humorous. And again, it's a movie that I've recommended Memento to a lot of people because of how it's filmed. You have to see it because a lot of work went into it. And the thing about Memento that is the most striking is it's not confusing for the viewer. And that's crazy when I describe to people how it is filmed and how the timeline goes, because I describe it in a timeline fashion. And when I describe it to people, they have this look on their face like, I'm going to be confused the whole time. And when you're watching it, you're not confused at all. And it's really a lot of effort went into that. You should watch it for the effort that was put into it. But I wish there was more movies like that really made you think, you know. But then the other thing is if you knew every single movie you're going to watch is going to be a mind screw, you're not that impressed by a mind screw because you knew it was coming. Yeah, but Memento was good. Those type of plots work well for me. Also, stuff like, although I don't remember loving the movie, the plot like Butterfly Effect is another one that works really well for me. Like, you go and change one thing and came back and come back, and then it has all kinds of unexpected consequences you didn't think about because they make you think. I don't necessarily like the thinking like trying to figure out who done it. I like the thinking like it just helps you process like, oh, well, if this is this and this is that, well, what about this other thing? I enjoy that kind of stuff. Anyways, Devil's Double is a movie about Saddam Hussein's crazy son. He had two sons, and one of them was just kind of nuts. He was kind of like Hitler meets Scarface, and it is about this crazy son who grabs a schoolmate of his who wants him to be used as a body double. And he's played by the same actor. The actor does a tremendous job because the two characters are nothing alike. Although they look alike, obviously, that's the whole point. They don't act anything alike. And he really should have won an award for it. And you don't know what's going to happen next. It is just sitting the edge of your seat. It is like giving, somebody crazed like Hitler fully automatic weapons and a mountain of cocaine, and you just never know what's going to happen. And it is a great movie, and it's probably 20 years old now or so, which to me is not a long time ago, but I recommend that if you haven't seen it. It's a wild ride, let's put it that way. It is a wild ride. Uday Hussein with his gold AKs and stuff. Actually, I don't know if they feature prominently in that movie, but that was the crazed son that was coddled by his dictator father. But Memento was pretty good. The part about Memento I really liked was the whole scene at the bar with the beer and the spitting in it. That was really, I was really, really funny. Good morning, Mr. Steve. Up early morning painting, yeah. Got about 20 minutes to go, 17 minutes, and then I gotta stop. I don't know that it's gonna be for that long, but it's enough that I think I'm gonna have to disconnect for it. I'm gonna get this other Saloy done, and then we can put our first Byzantine stand together. So I have this I talked about earlier that I'm not really into video games anymore. They just don't keep my interest like they used to. And I have Rome Total War 2. I played the first one a lot. The second one I got a few years ago, and haven't really. They've just gotten too complicated. They've just gotten way too complicated and time consuming. And so I didn't realize that there was mods for it. I really didn't worry about it. So I downloaded a couple of mods yesterday, and one of them was it's called, what's it called? Medieval 1100. And the cool thing about it is there's Byzantine stuff on there. So I went in there and let's play it a little bit, see if we can get ideas for shields. But after doing the research, I go in there, I'm like, that's not how I would have painted their shields. That's not accurate. But it is just so time consuming that I don't think that was the right brown, was it? Let's see. No, I think I need to use this brown. I just rather paint. At the end of the day, the video game, you just don't have anything to show for it. And like I said, I'm a social for my hobby. You know, I want to do social stuff while I'm doing my hobby. So I could have the coolest thing happen, and I got nobody to talk to about it. You know, so about 20 minutes before I get my day started. Speaking of one person playing two roles, J.K. Simmons, who I always get confused as the guy in WKRP, because they have a similar look. J.K. Simmons, and his series counterpart, was thoroughly enjoyable. Interesting. I'll have to write that down. There's actors that I always get confused with other ones, and he's one of them. Him and the guy from WKRP. You know what he is. Is it Johnny Fever? WKRP is before my time, so never watched it. Counterpart, huh? Okay. Okay. Now that you know what I like, your suggestions are valid. You passed the test. Counterpart. Yeah, those two guys got to be related. They have similar mannerisms and stuff like that. We'll check it out. There's so many things to watch that it is difficult to have to try to sift through everything. And then you spend it's not the 10 minutes of giving something a shot. It's the sifting for 2 hours to find something that 10 minutes in you realize it's not your thing. just takes it, man. It's just like looking for music, okay? When I look for music for some of my videos, you could spend days just looking for music to try to use. And at some point, you're like, I'm just going to use whatever's available here that's off the library for KineMaster that I know I'm not going to get into trouble with the with YouTube. It's certified, free to use. KineMaster being the editor that I use on my phone for the videos, because I could just spend days just listening to samples of music to go with it. There's just so much stuff to go through, and most of it is like, nope, nope, not that one, nope, oh, that one's okay, and then nope, nope, and then going through and and making a decision on what you're going to use. You could burn through a whole lot of time, a whole lot of daylight. All right, let's do this bow. Green ochre. Were shields really painted like many gamers paint their figures with? Me or many gamers? Many gamers, no. Me, I try to do them realistic. I did a border in red in this one, and I took that from somebody else. I generally find it very hard to believe that the edge of a shield would not be covered in some kind of a metal to keep the thing from falling apart, like a banding or something like that. So I almost always put metal around the edge of my shields. Almost always. Whether it's right or wrong. Do helicopters really need to fly that low? I just wonder about that. You're invading my airspace. Shoot it down. Shoot it down before it crashes on you. Most shields, I don't know what most shields. I think most things I've seen are painted wrong. But some people don't care. I think it's important. Sometimes I use some artistic license, but I think a lot of people have the wrong color palette, in my opinion. It's one of the things I enjoy the most of doing. It's one of the things that I think I'm the best at. Even with my limited experience of doing fantasy and stuff, I haven't done any fantasy and stuff like that. If I did more of it, I'd probably get even more experience. But the look or the tone of how the figure is going to be painted, I'm really happy with the choices I make in those. And I wouldn't want somebody to make them for me. I think that a lot of times many figures are too bright. I think it's gotten better over time. We all learn from each other by posting pictures of what we're doing on the internet, and you see somebody else's stuff and you're like, oh, I really like how that person did that. So you get ideas from each other. I've certainly done it. But the days of having these super glossy figures in really bright colors are less and less frequently seen. Not sure the fancy detail would appear in the field. Yeah, it depends on the figure, you know. I've made a comment frequently that's like, especially with something like my Irish, you know, you can't paint them all the same color. You got to make them different, but you know, different shades of. Even if you're using the same cloth, you can mix it in to make it, you know, look in different worn conditions. And just painting it straight one color makes the army look boring, and I love my Irish army, and I'm sure my Scots are going to be the same way. They're another just civilian dress folks, just guys that just rolled out of bed, and that's what they were wearing, and that's what they showed up in. But not everybody's wearing a uniform to bed, so making them look boring and interesting at the same time is a challenge I've enjoyed doing. I wouldn't want to leave that for somebody else. That's one of those things that, among many other reasons, I wouldn't want somebody to paint for me, because I got the pulse on what I like pretty much down. One thing I always go for in my painting is contrast. Light colored tunics mean darker leather belts. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You gotta have some contrast, or it just looks like blah. The stuff doesn't even look right. Doesn't look right. So I take artistic license on some things just because it's not gonna look correct on the field of battle and the miniatures. So when we're left with this, we're going to have Flesh to do, his little happy hat, and accoutrement that he has. And then he should be done. And then we can spray these two guys. They'll have the same color hat and everything. You know, they were equipped with this stuff, or they'd show up in their freaking underwear. And, you know, the Emperor doesn't want them looking like that. So they issued them with some stuff. So, okay, folks. Well, until next time, and it should be a little bit later on today. We got up to 10 viewers, and I got to kick off. Yeah.